So that's one thing too, is like I talk about this accuracy, right? Human hair, 3 thou. This isn't such a bad setup. My fixture's not, I don't have that thing very solid, and my base here is just C-clamped down. In my lab, I've got some pretty stout tables and big equipment. So the relationship between these is pretty solid. That's kind of the key to keeping that accuracy, you know? But, so a couple swipes on this thing. Kind of looks like a little bit of a brain. But if I zoom way in on this thing, it is what? That's what we call a point cloud. It is just a series of points. And that's what that number was up here as I was capturing. I've got 2 million points on that thing. So those points are what we use to turn it into, we call it a cutter path for steel. So if we're going to make a mold from that thing, I'm going to pepper it and make it look just like the shape, and then we lay a cutter path over it so they can cut it out of steel. I think I will make 1 million of these things for students.
What are the different colored lasers for?
Yeah, good question. This blue is new for me. I've got 3 blue, actually 4. One of them is not, it's not portable. It stays in the office for real small stuff. The blue light spectrum, you know, and I don't know the difference between where it is in the spectrum or what it does, but the resolution on blue is super fine.
Oh, that's because blue is the higher frequency of the spectrum. Well, and it has a really short wavelength, whereas red has the longest wavelength and slowest frequency.
Okay, see, that's interesting too, because my red light, the beam, that blue beam, that thing's like a mile wide. My red beam is like 4 inches. And this captures 200,000 points per second, where my red only does like 40,000. So there's a big difference in data capture for us. More expensive to go with this thing, but it is so worth it. Like when we were scanning those big hoods for that truck, shoot, man, to shoot it with that 4-inch stripe, we're there for a month. But these big scanners like this, they just pepper it with a point cloud super fast. So we can keep our costs down. If I tell a guy, yeah, sure, we can scan your hood, it might take us a week, and it's going to cost you $1 million, or whatever, you know, whatever it costs. But if I can be in and out of there in a day with the same amount of data, the client says, that's a lot better price. I think I'd like that. Let's do it. So that's kind of the difference between them. The my other blue light that's in the office right now that is stationary, it's got the same thing where it's got 2 lenses looking at the blue beam, but those lenses are focused in an area that's a 100 millimeter square. So we do jewelry with that thing. We had some lady that hand carved it was crazy. It was a skull, but inside of this skull, it had flowers kind of carved into it. I don't even know how she could have carved this thing. It was so small, but she wanted to make that into a small tool. So we scanned that thing up on that machine, and it looked beautiful. But again, that's a sacrifice for not being portable. That has to stay in the office. So that has to be temperature regulated, and any bumping on that thing just makes it go crazy.
Why just have a different kind of laser?
It's still a blue light.
No, I mean like instead of like a diode, it's like something else.
Holy cow! What is that in dog ears? That's what I say. I don't know. I know what the data looks like coming out of it, you know. But and this one's only got 1 camera looking at it. So if I start scanning again, the one I've got in the office, we'll see it's got here's the beam that comes out of here. This is the camera watching it, and they're calibrated together. But the one in the lab has got 2 cameras looking at that beam at all the time, and it's super fun. You can put a part on it, like if we were to do this brain, the camera's looking at this turntable, and this thing will spin in a certain motion, you know, in a certain number of positions, and that thing keeps taking pictures or point clouds in different angles. And then you can walk away, you know, you come back 5 minutes and you've got this model completed. It's crazy. But again, it's a sacrifice. It has to stay in the lab. All right. So when we do, like when I'm talking accuracy like this, that 3,000ths, that makes sense for tools like this. But when you're scanning a building, the builder doesn't care.
If you like scan something like that has like lights, like one of us or anything, or would it show like the same exact, or is it different for different lasers?
So here's a good story about that. And after this, I'll scan some hand. I'll show you how we do it, because that was crazy. I had a guy find us on the web again from Ann Arbor. He wouldn't tell us who he was representing, but we found out it was Motorola. We didn't find out what the device was, but what he said is, I'm going to take 400 people through this assembly line of scanning. So they would sit down, we would scan like chin, like a stripe through the chin to the back of the neck, and then from ear over this way to this ear. And we tried it in the office, and we couldn't get somebody still enough to do it. So we came up with a small device that was almost like at the eye doctor. So if you put your head in a nest and you get your eyes looked at, it was like a fixture that holds your head. But even just breathing or blinking, your body changes. So we tried to get that scan to work, couldn't. But the next station after we were to do the scan, they would do an epoxy pour into the ear canal, this other company, and they would pull a plug out. That's the size and shape of your ear canal. We would scan that, and then we can overlay that data into the head scan. What we tried to figure out is it sounded like it was communication. The relationship between the mouth and each ear was very important. So it was either a football helmet, military helmet, or like NASCAR or race car type of thing, because that relationship was so incredibly important to these guys on 400 people. And we just told them, we can't hold the accuracy, man. You get some guy blinking and his whole face changes. I mean, it's amazing how it shows up in the point cloud, how inaccurate it is. I don't know how they solved it or what they did to do it, but the accuracy they were trying to hold just with this equipment couldn't be done. Sorry, that's a long story, but it was very interesting.
Okay.
We were asked to do that because it scans bodies or things beautiful like that, you know?
You can do cadavers. I mean,
Yeah.
if they took 400 dead people.
Correct.
I mean, you can
Yeah.
essentially get it then, but.
Yep.
Always got to go there, Mr. Reynolds.
No, I wasn't looking for volunteers. I was just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting too that they had a target size of person that they would send through this 400-person assembly line. We did one scan that was very fun for Herman Miller, off their company locally here that makes office furniture. They were developing this chair that was for people in a call center. So, like, if you have software issues, you call in a call center. Sometimes it's an office filled with hundreds of people. Typically, those people are a little bit bigger because that's what they do. They sit in the chair all day long. So Herman Miller was coming up with this chair that would kind of recline back, and the armrest had keyboard. So you could type as you're listening to your phone. So they developed this chair, or they were trying to develop this chair for people over the 300-pound range. It was crazy, just saying. But the way they wanted us to scan that is they built this device that was, so it's like a beanbag chair. So if you sit in a beanbag chair, it kind of conforms to your body, right? This person was sitting in this beanbag chair, and then they could pull a vacuum of this beanbag chair, so it just forms around their body. So like, have you guys seen coffee bags in the store that are vacuum packed? It's like a brick until you open it, and then all of a sudden it opens up. It's the same exact theory, man. So they'd set this big guy in that chair, they'd draw that vacuum, and then we'd just come in and we'd scan that beanbag for that shape, because they were trying to take that contour and put it into the comfort of a chair. It's crazy. It didn't go anywhere. They couldn't get that market to work, but what a fun project. So every day it's something new and just different, you know? It's crazy. I was going to say, though, Gunnar, I thought you played baseball. Did you play baseball?
I used to play baseball.
You don't anymore, huh? Because I was going to say, what I want to do is say if you still play baseball, and Zealand said you were the man, all of a sudden you're professional grade. If we were going to perfectly get your size and shape of your hand for a custom fit ball glove, I'm hoping I can scan your hand. You got time for that? It's just going to take me a second, dude. Come on over. So I'm going to, yeah. Because that's the thing too, it's like, you know, anybody can measure with a tape measure or other devices like that. We call them calipers or micrometers. There's other ways of measuring things, but all of those devices are 2D. So I'm not going to get like the width on your fingers from a tape measure or something crazy like that. It just doesn't make sense, you know? So we would scan that as if we were scanning. Let me just get rid of this guy here. All right, there. And I'll close this just for a second. Okay, now, yeah, just any place on there. Relax the hand and don't move it.
So just like keep it just like flat like this.
Yeah, put a little arc to it.
Here you go.
All right. Well, see, so this would be like
Mess it up,
that 400 people.
Yeah.
I mean, even the blood going through that hand is going to destroy my point cloud. I mean, for the accuracy we're looking for, it's just crazy. All right, so you hang tight right there. It's going to get super hot, man. All right? Super hot. Here it comes. I'm kidding, it's not, dude. It's fine. What is cool, though, is skin scans incredibly well. That color, that's another thing, I didn't mention that about the blue light, is that the blue light, okay, hang tight, you're in a good spot yet. The blue light seems to handle different colors incredibly well. See what it's doing? I'm getting this little chirp chirp. It's saying that there's movement. It's just, you breathing, man, you know?
Breathing, right?
You gotta do it. Look at that. That should be enough points on there. Come on. Yeah, I know. We'll save that once. All right, you're good. Let's take a look at it though. See how it looks. See, even just that little bit of motion, like if he's breathing, see all the dark spots in there? It's trying, man, but it just can't, you know? So when we tell a client, hey, we can't hold that accuracy. And it's because it's truly 3D too. So I'm seeing all that stuff. I see underneath them. It's crazy. So that X and the Y, and we introduce that Z into it. Now all of a sudden you've got some power, man. You've got data here you can turn into a tool, you know, or turn into fabric that's going to make a perfect
random
inlet
line
for your
that you
glove
just-
or something. We actually just did this same thing with a boat. There's a company in Holland named Christensen Fiberglass. This guy came from Tierra. Have you guys ever heard of Tierra or Slickcraft or S2 Yachts? Those guys, so that's where this guy came from. He's super genius. He's got a tool, or an NC, CNC, a computer numeric controlled cutter that is 60 foot long. So this guy's making boat molds and hulls. I wanted to shoot pictures of this thing. It was super cool, but he wouldn't let us. He's got two boats there that are both 24 foot. They're totally different hulls. They're two totally different hulls. One of them, it's a Cobalt ski boat. These guys are trying to put an outboard motor on it instead of it being an inboard outboard. And the minute that weight goes on the back of that boat, and they take it out in the big lake, that thing dives the front end, and it almost like it wants to submerge it. It's weird because you think the weight in the back would keep it up, but the way the hull is designed, it just cuts right in the water.
So do you mean cobalt colored or cobalt metal?
It's the Cobalt brand name. So like Mastercraft or like Ski Nautique. So Cobalt is a boat manufacturer. The other boat hull that they have seems to do that pretty well. You put the weight on the back and it holds up on the water really well. So somehow these two different boat hulls work together well, but they're two different hulls. So this guy's taken our two scans and he can overlay them together, get them close enough to where he can make one mold do both of these things. Super cool. One boat was in Fenton across the state, so I sent a guy out there to scan. One of them was here in Holland. We scanned that thing. Just got done with the data set, and those things just pop right on top of each other. It's super cool. Super cool. But who'd have thought you're going to go scan a boat today? It's weird. Who'd have thought of that deal? So, okay. How much time do I have, you guys? Or what time is your lunch?
Yeah, till probably another 20, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, another 25 minutes.
Good. So I did want to talk a little bit about like the business side of it, where I kind of came from and what I've done. Yeah.
I was kind of wondering, like, would this be able to scan through the glass like a watch?
Yes, very, very good. Yeah, so like this was here too. I was going to think about scanning this, but that laser is so intense it pops right through anything clear. So it would scan through the face of a watch.
The fact that it's moving is probably going to screw it up a bit.
Yeah, you'd see that thing, it captured in its movement, for sure. But we have done a couple things where we've had to do helicopter windows. Or like the front end of a helicopter, we've scanned the windows or the windshield. The only way we can do that is we've got this contact paper that's white, and it forms real nice to that. So have you guys seen like if a truck's going down the highway with cars on it for a new car dealership, sometimes they put that white paper on there to kind of protect it a little bit. That's what we want. We want a roll of that for that project, because that thing scans white beautifully. It doesn't scan clear at all. So that's what we did there. But I did want to talk about, so I had no idea this thing even existed until the year 2000. When we came back from across the state, We were out there for 15 years or so. I started working at Herman Miller. They had 6 of these things, and not one person was using them. Not one. So I was on a project